So it's the offseason, and you're trying to build for the future in MLS. Who are the top U23 prospects in the league? I'm going to give you one guy that you should absolutely have this year, and one guy who's maybe a little bit more under the radar that you should be looking at for future years. Also, we have a big announcement coming up about tomorrow's draft. So stick around. Here we go. Welcome into another video on the channel. This is Chris, the MLS Card Guy. Today, we're going through U23 players in MLS. Offseason is the perfect time to stock up your team for next year. Get them now while the prices are good. They've gone up a little bit, but we expect them to go up even more as we hit closer and closer to the start of the season. So if you don't already have your team in place, make sure you get those final buys in as fast as possible. Those guys are getting more expensive as we go. First, we're going to start with our announcement. So tomorrow is the re-entry process draft for MLS. So we should see a few, kind of not difference makers, but some key starters moving to different teams, to new teams. So Charlotte will be making a pickup for sure. We should see Cincinnati, who has the number 2 pick, get a little bit better tomorrow. So as we get later into the draft, some of the talent starts to evaporate. So maybe not as much that we need to worry about later on for the teams that made the playoffs, but for the teams that didn't make the playoffs, really good opportunity to shore up maybe a position of need, basically for free. They're just picking, it's kind of like waivers. So we are going to be doing that live on Twitter Spaces tomorrow. It starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That would be 6 Greenwich Mean Time for you guys over in the UK. So yeah, join us for that. Really, really exciting expansion draft spaces that we did that went really, really well. We're going to actually have a guest host as well on the next one. So we're going to have MLS Sorare Scout from Twitter as well, helping us out and guest hosting, giving us a few of his opinions as well. So make sure you follow both my account, MLS Card Guy, and his account, MLS Sorare Scout, for all the latest on Twitter. Again, that's tomorrow, 1 o'clock, 6 Greenwich Mean Time. So we're going to go ahead and get into our picks. So again, like I said, I gave you one from each position that's kind of higher tier that you should have for next season. And then one that's kind of maybe a breakout star, maybe a guy for a year or two down the road. But a guy that hopefully most of these guys should be contributing next year. But we'll kind of go through them as we go. So without any further ado, here we go. First up, goalkeeper. Now I'm not going to use the 2 under 23 goalkeepers that you probably all know about. I think you guys know my thoughts on Gaga Slonina, the Chicago goalkeeper. I don't know that he's nailed on as a starter yet. He's clearly one for the future. He clearly will be a starter, if not this season, then at least down the road. But I think Chicago could look to bring in some goalkeeping help and at least have a competition there. Now, he may win that competition, but for my money, he is absolutely bonkers price for not being a guaranteed starter. The other one, Ochoa from RSL, guaranteed starter. If I were going for a U23 goalkeeper and I had an unlimited budget, that's probably who I would go with. But as you can see here, we're going John Polskamp from Kansas City. Now, he filled in when Melia got, I think it was COVID that he got last year, right at the beginning of the season, and did pretty well. He's also a very, very young goalkeeper. You can see 20 years old, so you got 4 years almost there on the U23 side of things. And I think this is probably the year where he takes Milia's job at some point during the season. I don't know if he starts opening day, but at some point during the season, I think John Polskamp has a really, really good job, a really, really good chance to start. And you can see the price, especially this one, on the out of 1,000. That's a really, really good price. 0.015 is basically just your average base, starting goalkeeper. Ochoa and Gaga Slonina, the 2 under 23 goalkeepers in MLS, are both 5 times as expensive as this. So if he does end up starting, these prices are going to absolutely balloon. I don't hate this price. I would like to see it closer to that price, to be honest with you. But yeah, not bad value. At some point, I think he takes the job. Now, that's a little bit of projecting on my part, but I like what I've seen from him. He's got some U.S. men's national team opportunities, so we'll have to see how things work out for John Polskamp. Moving on is a Canada team goalkeeper, Thomas Hassel. So the problem with Hassel is he's stuck behind Max Krupo. Maxi Krupo is only, I think he's 26, 27. Still honestly young for a goalkeeper. And he's fighting to be Canada's #1. So maybe does he think about going to Europe and trying to apply his trade there? If he does, Vancouver have an absolute stud behind him with Thomas Hassel. Everybody that I've talked to says that anytime this kid plays, he is very, very good. Now, he is 22 years old, so you get him until 2024 on the under-23 contract. Now, not quite as long as Poles Camp, but he is a little bit cheaper, so you're paying a backup goalkeeper price here. And if he does end up getting the start, again, you're getting a huge return on your investment. So a lot of people like him for the future. The problem with him is that he is stuck behind Maxi Krupo. Moving on to defender, one of my absolute favorite defenders, regardless of U23, is Austin Trusty. And you notice his birthday, August 11th, which is a fantastic birthday. So rare-wise. It means he gets a full extra year in order to be U23. So he is U23 until 2023. So he has another year and a half to go. His scores speak for themselves. He's one of the best defenders in the MLS, period. If I'm buying a team right now, it's Walker Zimmerman, it's Miles Robinson, who may or may not leave, and it's Austin Trusty. Those are the three guys that I'm going with at defender. Trusty just happens to be under 23, so he absolutely will get the nod. His price is getting a little out of control for being a defender, but again, that U23, I have, honestly, if you can find them for 0.1, I don't have a problem with that at all, and this price is too low. Walker, I think, is 0.025 right now, so about double the price. I would take Trusty over Walker at this point for this price because they're very, very similar. Walker's maybe a little bit better, but the extra value you get for U23, not just this season, but the start of next season as well, is fantastic. And keep in mind, Colorado will be playing in the Champions League as well, so they'll get at least 2 extra games. They have an easy draw in the round of 16, so they have a great chance at getting to a quarterfinal, potentially against New York City FC. So even potentially could get through that and get all the way to the semi, which would add an extra 6 games on top of the 34 that they play in MLS. So you're looking at potentially getting a bunch of usage out of him come the middle of February. So really, really soon too. So Austin Trusty is definitely a guy to look out for. Next is a guy who's a little more under the radar, a little more of a projection. Jack Maher from Nashville SC. You can see he was the starter at the end of the season here. Just missed the 1 game, had 1 sub. But other than that, very, very solid scores. He goes into a Nashville defense that is very talented. When you have Walker Zimmerman and Dave Romney as the other 2 center backs in this group, and you have a very solid goalkeeper in Willis behind them, they're not going to give up a whole lot of goals. The problem is probably competition. It looks to me right now that those are the 3 guys nailed on, and everybody else is going to be playing one of the fullback spots, Alistair Johnson and Lovitz. That's who I would project their back 5 to be, and I think if you get that back 5, he is by far the cheapest. If you get him anywhere near this price, being U23 for another 2 years, it's fantastic, and this price is absurdly low. So you can see he's proven that he can be good over a long period of time. He's in a great spot. He's a talented player. He was the number 2 overall pick, I think, in 2020 when Nashville were the expansion side. So I think Jack Maher really starting to come into his own. This is a guy I'd like to see get a little bit more hype from Sorare people because I think he's got some talent that can be utilized on the platform. Next, midfielder. Everybody knows where I'm going here. There's no other U23 midfielders that come close, right? Not exactly true. Ezekiel Barco could be a good shout here. I'm thinking Georgi Mihailovic probably does end up going to Europe, so I'm excluding him from this showing. But in either way, I would probably be taking Kevin Paredes on this price. This price is super low. So I would absolutely be looking at out of 1,000 Kevin Paredes. And then this price has inflated quite a bit. I'm not ever going to sell mine, so you don't even bother offering me for him. He will stay on my club until he's 30. And I have won so many rewards with him that it's absolutely stupid. I love Kevin Paredes. Hopefully he makes it one more season in MLS before Europe comes calling. But it's a matter of time at this point. He has a decent shout to be on the World Cup team for the U.S. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more else I can say about Kevin Paredes. You guys know that I love him. If you watch that John Nellis video, absolute hyped him up, and with good reason as well. Look at this U23 date, 2027, guys. You know how many rewards you can win in 6 years with an elite stud like Kevin Paredes? Absolutely phenomenal player. The other guy that I'm going with here is a guy that I just found. I kind of just discovered him, so I haven't really watched a lot of tape on him or anything like that. To be honest with you, I've never watched a Houston game before because they're so bad at everything else that it just didn't seem worth it to me. But this kid, this looks like the graph of someone who's going to break out next season. Didn't play all the way up until the middle of last year, and then started to get his opportunity. And look at this little stretch of games right here. 7 games, 5 decisives. That's incredible. That's incredible, guys. 7. Well, actually, it's a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 7 games, 4 decisives. And then this game here. Okay. So yeah, an incredible run right here. So he proves that he can get decisives. Some of these all-around scores are very, very respectable. Kid is only 22 years old. He's just started. He's just started to break into the Houston first team. To be honest, I don't know where he came from. I'm gonna have to go and do some more research on him and kind of go through the process. But this price is too low for a guy that could break out, and even if he averages 47 next year. But this is a nice looking chart so far for Griffin Dorsey. So definitely one to watch moving forward at the midfield position. At forward, there's a couple different guys that we can go with. I'm gonna go with Brenner, and for this one reason, we're gonna go with him for this price. Now this is a little too high for me. I think so. Daryl DK is right around the same price on rare. And I think you can pick up DK, and I think DK, if he stays in MLS, I don't think he will stay in MLS, but DK going to Europe, I think he's going to start in Europe. So I don't think it's that much of a risk if he does end up in Europe, and I think he's going to just dominate people. Brenner, not quite as talented, I don't think, not quite as physically dominant, but I do expect a little bit of a breakout from him this next season. His scores are respectable, but I would expect to see more of this type of stuff, where he's putting up, 45s in off games and then scoring and throwing up a 70, every other game. I don't think that's a stretch. With Acosta there, I think they're going to add a few more pieces as well. I love the Alec Khan signing that they made earlier today. So I'm all on the Cincinnati bandwagon right now, guys. Again, a long time on U23, which is great news. He's already producing at a decent level, and I think this could get into the mid-50s, and he could just explode next season. So especially this one here. And I mentioned DK before. The prices are similar on rare. DK's 0.035, I believe, on the limited. So this price is too low. He should be 0.025 maybe. And this price is getting close to too high, but probably about right. I wouldn't love to pay that, but he could exceed that price. This price is really high. So, but Brenner, really good. I think he's got a decent shot at breaking out next season. Again, a ton of U23 forwards that you could go with, but they're all pretty expensive. Tati Castellanos, Brenner, Pepe, Ferreira. All these guys are very expensive. So if you're going to spend up, I like, first of all, if you want an out of 1,000, I like Brenner. If you're going to spend up for a rare card, I like DK and send him off to Europe and let him dominate. For a more under the radar type of guy for a forward, this is not a bad price for a U23 forward, and he's got 3 years left. Okay. So a lot of time left on a U23. This price is way too low. I still think these, I mean, I get that there's no ETH grind in the out of 1,000 leagues, the limited leagues, but but his prices are too low, guys. They shouldn't be, what is this, 15 times as expensive? More than 15 times? 17 times? It shouldn't be 17 times. It should be like 8 times. So when I see a price difference like this, and I see a guy that's being valued, you know, not really highly, but there are people who are paying a decent amount for him, and then he's available for $13 on here. That's way too low. And then take a look at the chart. Little inconsistent for the season, but I mean that's kind of to be expected for the U23 forwards. I do like him as a player. I think he's breaking into the Canadian national team, which I think will be good. I absolutely love the upgrade that Toronto made at head coach. Bob Bradley will do wonders for this kid. My only concern with Schaffelberg is, do they bring in Insigne and Javinko and all these world-class attacking players and they just don't have space for Schaffelberg? It's possible. That would be the one concern. But if Schaffelberg plays every single game, I guarantee you that he averages more than 40. And he could be another one of those kind of breakout type guys. But again, that concern of will he actually play? I think we kind of have to wait and see how the Toronto roster shapes out. But if they have Pozuelo on one side, Insigne on the other side, and him in the middle, he's going to score 15 goals, at least 15 to 20 goals. Because he's talented. He's a good player. And he's coming into his own slowly but surely, breaking into the Canadian national team. A lot of people very, very high on him. And this is a very reasonable price. If he breaks out, he could be 0.3, 0.4 by middle to end of next season. So a guy, if you have a little bit of disposable income that you want to kind of throw into somebody as more of a project, a guy that I would take a good hard look at. So that's going to be the teams. Those are the 2 teams that we made for U23. Hopefully you guys got a few ideas for some different players to go and target, different players to look at. If you have any specific questions about any of the players, definitely feel free to leave a comment. Definitely feel free to DM me on Twitter, on Discord, however you guys have your account set up. Don't forget the Twitter Spaces tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock on Greenwich Mean Time. Be going over the re-entry draft, so we'll kind of like we did with the expansion draft, except the expansion draft was just solely Charlotte. So those are the only players that we could talk about. Now it kind of expands to the entire league, gets to kind of do the same thing. So we'll go over more of the in-depth specifics on the Spaces tomorrow. But that's going to be it for the video today. I do appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. We have some really, really cool things in the works, so definitely stay tuned to the channel here. Stay tuned to the Twitter. Until the next time, Vamos United.